A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for finding time to be with us today. This is Good Morning Africa. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and as usual, we're coming to you from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi. I trust that for Kenyans who had a long weekend, you enjoyed yourself and gotten some rest, as we were celebrating Jamhuri Day on Sunday, and that meant yesterday was a public holiday. Nevertheless, it is nice to have you again this morning. So I'll take us through quickly the headlines of the leading newspapers, and then I'll bring in my panelists and we shall start our conversation. And on the Star newspaper this morning, the main headline, Raila to borrow a 2002 Kibaki victory plan. Strategy will ensure ODM leader attains controlling members in parliament. The stories on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. And then just up there, 1 man killed, 4 injured in Boch to Muhoroni police operation. The stories on page 6 of the Star newspaper. Ruto meets grassroots leaders from Laikipia County, and that is the main pictorial on the front page of the Star newspaper. And then husband stabs a man caught in bed with his wife in Durham. You'll find that on page 3. And Man United draws Atletico Real Madrid lands PSG test. The story is on the back page of the Star newspaper. And then we move on swiftly to the Daily Nation. And on the Daily Nation this morning, the main headline, Uhuru's big dilemma as half cabinet joins politics, with several cabinet secretaries being touted for political seats or having aligned themselves to the emerging formations ahead of the 2002 general election. The head of state could either make new appointments or ask the remaining ones to act in the vacant dockets. The story is on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Abandoned to die in mine. Tom Okwach has not had a meal for 13 days now, and the last communication with him was 3 days ago. The story is on page 12 of the Daily Nation. Fallout in Teachers Union. 6 top branch officials of KUPPET have been struck off its payroll in a major falling out with the National Office over implementation of the contentious Teachers Professional Development Training Program. You'll find that on the back page of the Daily Nation. And then just down there, rising infection rate could lead to new lockdowns. I'm sure that is not one of the things Kenyans want to talk about or want, the government to be doing right now. That, the cases have gone up. We have enough vaccines in the country, and Kenyans are still not showing up to these vaccine centers as they should. So there has been still a reluctance, and the numbers are not as much as, we are making some progress, but the government was hoping by now it would have vaccinated so many Kenyans. So maybe this will just, scare them into going and getting themselves vaccinated. The story is on page 6, and in a short bit we'll find out what that is about. And then now sisters face assault charges. They are said to have assaulted Ms. Munira Hassan Muhammad, an associate of Ndichu twins, on the night of October 16th and 17th. The Ndichu case that I think has been trending now for the country for the last couple of weeks. Return of happy times as coast hotels fill up. I think that is some very good news in our hospitality industry, and that is on page 7 of the Daily Nation. We turn our attention now to the Standard newspaper, and the main headline, Raila versus Ruto, making of epic political battle. For long, DP has dared ODM leader to bring it on, describing handshake and BBI as a power grab, a plot hatched to tilt presidential race in favor of the former prime minister, who has now declared his candidature, setting stage for a titanic battle. The story is on page 6 of the Standard newspaper. Rasanga State has ignored miners. Mining has not been devolved, and this is why Siaya governor is pushing the national government to rejoin rescue efforts. The story is on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. President spoke well, but his regime's failures are all too clear. That is on page 12. It is an analysis on the Standard newspapers, and Doka seek fresh talks over their CBA. And then Forex reserves fall by 101 billion Kenya shillings. The story is on page 27 of the Standard. So that is what we have on the leading newspapers this morning. I'm joined by Sharon Gitonga from Nairobi. Sharon Gitonga, very good morning to you.
Thank you very much, Miriam, and very good morning to you from Nairobi. my colleague panelists Samuel Tawish and Daniel Wesonga, and to all our viewers who are watching us, whether it's their morning, afternoon, or evening in Kenya, Africa, and the entire globe. Good morning.
Good morning to you, and nice to see you this morning. And we're also joined by Samuel Tawish, also a correspondent and journalist from Nairobi. Tawish, a very good morning to you.
Very good morning indeed to you, Miriam Ogutu. Good morning to my colleague panelist, Sharon Gitonga, Sean Wesonga, and all our viewers watching this program.
And also, last but not least, we are joined by Daniel Wesonga, or as the rest of the panelists call him, Sean Wesonga. Daniel Wesonga, very good morning to you, and nice to have you today.
Yes, very, very good morning, Miriam Ogutu. Good morning to my good brother, Tawish Olisasina. Good morning to my fellow panelists and colleague, Sharon Gitonga, and good morning to our viewers here in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world who are tuning in this morning. Indeed, it is my pleasure to join the conversation this morning.
All right, very well. So I know we've not met here since the Azimio la Umoja that happened on Friday last week. Of course, I was busy. I was graduating then. Oh, by the way, I was top of my class. I was awarded for that, and I got to deliver the valedictorian speech on behalf of the graduates on Friday. So it was a great day for myself. So I'm very proud of that.
Congratulations, Miriam.
Reading is not easy.
Congratulations, Miriam. Congratulations.
Congratulations so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. But the main thing that was happening on Friday is we had the Azimio la Umoja, and since we've not had a conversation around it, so perhaps Samuel Tawish, I'll start with you. What did you make of what happened in Kasarani moving forward, even as we get into the headlines this morning?
Thank you so much, Miriam. I think, Miriam, generally, it was symbolic. The event was symbolic in a way that it really gives a direction where this country is headed to, in as far as, of course, the succession politics is concerned. Raila Amolo Odinga has all along been saying that he will have an opportunity really to respond to questions and, of course, police from those he calls his supporters, to actually declare his candidature for presidency come the 2022 general election. And true to it, true to the, of course, what observers had always hoped, that Raila Odinga will be in the presidential ballot. So he came and, of course, made that pronouncement that his name will be in the ballot come the August 2022 general election. And therefore, it puts to rest the debate as to whether Raila Odinga will be on the ballot or not. But again, one thing that came out very clear is that Raila Odinga is not only interested really in pursuing his presidential ambition alone, that his is more of that unity of purpose, bringing all political leaders, regardless of the political parties, and also calling on these politicians really that we need to have a formidable force where all people who are like-minded, usually that is the wording or how politicians put it, like-minded, people who think alike, people who are more like they're pursuing the same goal. And in this case, you saw the likes of Gideon Moi, who is, of course, a member in the One Kenya Alliance, being the KANU party leader attending this particular event. We also had Cyrus Jirongo. We had a host of other leaders, including Charity Ngilu, who is also the party leader of NARC, if I'm not very wrong, and so many other political leaders really who came for that particular event. Also notable, Miriam, was the fact that we had a sizable number of serving cabinet ministers also attending that particular event. I think basically just giving their endorsement to this Azimio la Umoja and more so to the candidature of Raila Amolo Odinga. So moving into 2022, I think the line has already been drawn. It's going to be a very tough contest between, of course, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and the Deputy President William Ruto, because now it has been famed as a two-horse race between these two political heavyweights. We want to see how this is going to pan out, because again, there's that question of who is going to be the running mate. Still, each of these leading presidential candidates are holding this close to their chest. They do not want to reveal the names of those who are going to be the running mate. But I think because there's still some time, about 7 or so months to next year's general election, they still could do that by somewhere next year, say maybe February or thereabout, when they will be declaring who will be their running mate. But it is very clear that Raila Odinga is now on the ballot. and is pulling is getting so much of support, even across the political divide, save for UDA that is led by Deputy President William Ruto.
All right, very well, thank you so much. And of course, we'll get into that at 11 a.m. and just a few minutes away. But I'd like to know your thoughts, Sharon Gitonga, what was happening in Kasarani on Friday. How will that change the Kenyan political dynamics as it is right now moving forward?
Thank you very much, Miriam, for that question, and of course, Tawish, for your sentiments. Indeed, Friday was, full of pomp and color, and it was actually a turning point, to the people of Kenya, and a moment for, the former Prime Minister to, share about his national vision that he's always had for this country. At some point, for me, it quite got emotional, especially when he was trying to talk about the history. And I remember at some point when he was talking about the handkerchief that he held, and trying to say that how symbolic the handkerchief that he held, talking about the tears that he had even back then, during the time of his detention and all the kind of tortures. I mean, for me it was quite symbolic, and two things really stood out, and if I'll borrow his words, that he said, he's actually not running for presidency to oppose anyone, but to propose a better policies. And he also said that he's not at war with any personalities, but at war with ideologies that will leave this nation that would put this nation in the wrong direction. And then another thing that also stood out for me is something that was not expected, the launch of the Azimio la Umoja. And I think Tawish has touched base on that as a movement that he said, to form coalitions with different and like-minded people, and that is what the country needs at this point. I think because you've said that we'll talk more about it, for me that is exactly what stood out for me. And also, as I conclude, I've seen also the UDA people, of course, which was bound to happen. They've also had something to talk about this year, and I saw I think yesterday in Karen with some of the these cronies talking about how they don't want to be enslaved by the history, and probably just to remind them, you have to look at the history to know where you're going, where you're actually going to. So we cannot just rely on the future without looking at the past and the mistakes that you have made, so that you can be able to move forward as a country. Thank you.
Very well, thank you so much. Yes, we have to reconcile our past with our future, with our present, so that we know how we forge our future. All right, thank you so much. Daniel Wesonga, ANC leader, was not present in that meeting on Friday. Are you surprised? Because I think we've been having a guessing game here on the show, and we've been wondering, will he show up or not? From the previous reactions we've seen in the past few days over some of these meetings that have been happening across the country. But what did you make of what happened on Friday? And I think it was an open secret that Raila was going to run anyway, so I was not really surprised by that.
Yes, thank you, Miriam.
Yes,
thank you so much. And of course, my perception of what happened is that I believe Musalia Mudavadi, just like Dr. Matsanga said in his morning articles, is that he showed some kind of political immaturity in that you saw Raila Odinga attending the KANU's NDC, he attended the Wiper NDC, and for that matter, I believe it would have been just prudent for Musalia Mudavadi to attend Raila Odinga's declaration. Attending does not mean that you're going to support someone. So to me, it was a bit of immature of him just to dismiss it on social media. Also, not forgetting that this was an invitation which was actually extended to him via official private channels. So it was a bit unnecessary for him to go and start now talking about it on social media. And Musalia Mudavadi is one politician who has proven that he is very lazy, lethargic, and he actually expects everything to be given unto him on a silver platter. That cannot work in politics, Miriam, because your hard work will always reflect in the number of votes that you get. You cannot be sitting at the comfort of your house in Karen, moving from a drinking den to another, and then expect that people will come out of nowhere and be able to endorse you for presidency and be able to vote for you. That cannot happen. That is a dream that Musalia Mudavadi should wake up from before it is too late. So to me, I think he's just disgruntled, and that does not affect the fact that Raila Odinga is going to be the 5th president of this republic. Because one thing, when you come to terms with the reality, is that Raila Odinga will still beat Musalia Mudavadi in any poll that is held in Western Kenya. As we speak right now, Musalia's MCA is ODM, Musalia's governor is ODM. The MP who is ANC actually the other week told Musalia if he's not vying, he's not serious about vying, then they should go and support Raila Odinga. But as it is, Miriam, I'll tell you without any fear of doubt or contradiction that Musalia Mudavadi could be as well be warming up for William Ruto, because we've seen the drift of his language, we've seen the way he's been talking, and all pointers actually go all the way to Sugoi. And that is what even his lieutenants like Cleophas Malala has been doing, Bishop Hamala of Lurambi has been doing. So to me, I don't care much about Musalia Mudavadi. All we know is that Raila Odinga has the support of the right people in Western Kenya. And whatever happened on Friday, Miriam, is just a manifestation of whatever I'm talking about. Raila Odinga has the support of all the people around Kenya, all corners of this country. And the video that was shared during that Azimio la Umoja convention actually shows that it is the people of Kenya who said that Raila Odinga should actually vie for the prosperity of this country. Because right now we are faced by two choices. A choice to choose between evil and good. And in that term, I mean, we have William Ruto on one side and we have Raila Odinga on the other. So there's no way we cannot have Raila on the ballot unless we want to give these countries to the bandits and merchants of corruption and impunity. And that one we cannot allow, Miriam. So to me, I think it brought down of a new beginning, a beginning where this country has a future to prosperity, has a future to unity, all seen through the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. And that is why we always say President Uhuru Kenyatta will not leave this country to a thief, and he will ensure that this country is actually knitted around the aspirations of unity, peace, and prosperity and integrity. And that can only happen through the hands of Raila Odinga. Remember, Raila Odinga is the only politician who stood with the BBI and steadfastly defended it, even when the courts were saying it cannot go anywhere, even when William Ruto was saying that BBI is a scam and it is for the dynasties and the rich people. So to me, I believe for the BBI to be revived, for the BBI, a dream which the president said was deferred, to be brought back, then we need Raila Odinga. And that is what the Azimio la Umoja Convention meant to me. A future that has been set ahead of us, a future that we will be able to achieve our aspirations as a country. I submit.
All right, thank you, Daniel. And of course, you just ushered me to something else also I wanted us to talk about before we get into the headlines this morning that I think was also very important that happened over the weekend. Kenya marked its Jamhuri Day on Sunday, and President Uhuru Kenyatta underscored he really underscored the importance of BBI and how that was meant to change the country. And we know his deputy president was present there. And of course, he's been fighting this BBI from the get-go. So I don't know if you were watching the events. I don't know, Tawish, I'll start with you because you were at Uhuru Gardens along Gang Road covering that event. I don't know, what did you make of everything else that was happening during the celebration of Jamhuri Day on Sunday?
Thank you so much, Miriam. Just to correct you, it was not in Ngong Road, but along Langata Road. That is where Uhuru Gardens is. Oh, sorry.
I'm corrected, yes. Along Langata.
But away from that, Miriam, I think this event, it's very significant in Kenya's history. It is that day that Kenyans finally, of course, when Kenyans finally, of course, hoisted the Kenyan flag and lowered the colonialist flag, and therefore this is a very, very significant day for the Kenyan people. And it's good that President Uhuru Kenyatta, through this event, actually took time to remind Kenyans that it is very, very important for us to know about our history, to know where we came from, where we are, and where definitely we are destined to. And that is very, very important. We have seen some people, and I think President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga appeared to be reading from the same script, that there are people who are castigating leaders who are reminding us of our history. And they did say that you cannot quite know where you are headed to if you do not know where you've come from. It is that history that will give you a bearing of where you want to go. And perhaps if there are any wrongs that we did commit in the past, it reminds us that we should not actually go back to those dark days that we came from. But away from that also, I think this event, Miriam, was full of political undertones. And I think when you listen carefully to President Uhuru Kenyatta's address on that particular day, it was more of pitching for Raila Amolo Odinga's presidency, because everything he spoke about it was more of what Raila speaks more often. When you talk about BBI, Raila usually says that BBI is on halftime and we will resume it at an appropriate time. We understand that, of course, that case, that matter is before the Supreme Court as we speak now. It will be deliberated somewhere. Is it in February or thereabout next year? And so President Kenyatta came and said he still believes, he is of strong conviction that the BBI was the magic and still remains the magic jab that will provide a solution to so many of the problems or ills that have bedeviled this nation for quite some time. And regardless of when it is going to happen, what is very sure is that we will have BBI by the end of the day. And I think that was the message that came from President Uhuru Kenyatta. How that is going to happen, assuming even the Supreme Court maybe affirms the Court of Appeals decision, I don't know how that is going to pan out. Maybe he knows it too well. And there's also the issue of the unity. And you heard President Kenyatta come out and say, just like building a house, just like building this nation, nobody can claim that they can build this nation on their own. I mean, you need a collective responsibility, a collective effort of each and everyone, all and sundry, to come together so that each of our contribution can really make that significance in as far as building this nation. And I think it was more of a clarion call for Kenyans really maybe to support Raila Odinga's Azimio la Umoja that seeks to bring Kenyans together, seeks to bring all political leaders and political parties together, away from Deputy President William Ruto, who is like a lone ranger, a person who is like an island. He feels like he's the only person who can provide a solution to the challenges that this country is really having. So I think he was taking a swipe on Deputy President William Ruto's political philosophy, that is the only one, and the political party in this country it's only UDA which everybody must come and board. And when you listen carefully, I think basically President was endorsing Raila indirectly. And I mean, that was what I read, being a political writer and reporter for quite some time. I was able to read between the lines and got really to understand. And I think that is what most Kenyans really read from President Uhuru Kenyatta's speech on that day. And if you could also listen to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga speak, of course, the issue of land grabbing, it evokes some memories about Deputy President William Ruto, who has been indicted often about this matter of land grabbing and corruption, and that we are determined to deal with such kind of ills in our society. I think also equally just taking a swipe at Deputy President William Ruto. So, but generally, it was a good event. It is that event, even the place itself, the Uhuru Gardens, which had undergone a very significant facelift. If you went there this time around, Miriam, I can tell you, and if you were there some years back, you will tell a very big difference. The place has completely gotten a new look. It is welcoming for that matter. And what Kenyans need to know, you don't have to pay a single coin really to visit this, of course, museum. It is free of charge. And Kenyans can get in there and have their time together, and also to be able to read history about who our heroes and heroines were. What role did they play in as far as making sure that we get self-rule? These are things that are very, very fundamental and things that we cannot just ignore or wish away, even as we forge into the future. Miriam, I submit.
Very well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Sharon Gitonga, I don't know what stood out for you during the Jamhuri Day celebrations on Sunday.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And of course, my sentiments are way similar to exactly what Tawish has talked about. And for me, I think when I heard the president talking about how, the BBI has really encountered, legal obstacles, but someday it will happen, just as the country continues to, cannot be able to survive, exclusion. It's the same way it cannot, be able to survive unfair and, skewed understood representation. So I think it's not at the end of the day, we do not know when, but the truth and the reality is that, one day, one time it's going to come back. And then, of course, the other thing that also stood out for me is about the history. And I mean, that is exactly why, we had these celebrations, very significant in Kenyan's history. And that's what I talked about, during the earlier conversation about the importance of our history. So to any person that believes, we do not have to focus on where we have come from, then definitely you do not, we cannot focus on where we are headed to without looking at our past and, recollecting and bringing about all the mistakes and, anything that we have failed to do so that we can be able to know, how we are going to move forward. So I think for me, that was one thing that really stood out for me. And of course, the issue of to even find out, for me, it came as a shock. I didn't know, Uhuru Garden had actually been, grabbed. And one thing I would like to pay a homage and really applaud the president for taking up, such a stern action and, bringing up, bringing a new, facelifted look of, Uhuru Gardens. So I think basically for me, to even hear, and of course the unity of, the unity of purpose was more pronounced even during the meeting. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And I think it's Raila Odinga who brought up, the opposition leader who brought up the issue.
Yeah.
And part of it was scrapped, and then he brought in Western Hotel, and I thought, where are you going with this story?
But Miriam, if you were also keen, I think
All right.
The deputy also tried to talk about his slogan, Kazi ni Kazi, indirectly. Yeah, so I don't know where that statement was headed to.
All right, thank you so much, Daniel Wasonga. As we close on this matter, is it a coincidence that President Uhuru Kenyatta chose to break protocol and bring in opposition leader in the middle of his speech after the deputy president had already spoken? Because usually, Raila perhaps would speak fast, and then whatever he says, the deputy will counter it before bringing in the president. But according to Kenyans who are perhaps reading too much into that, they're saying, oh, he wasn't given an opportunity to respond back. I don't know, was it a coincidence, and what stood out for you during that event on Sunday?
Thank you so much, Miriam. And one thing I always say is that in politics, nothing happens by chance or by coincidence. In politics, everything is premeditated and pre-planned. So whenever you see the president breaking protocol and bringing Raila Odinga to speak, then it must have been planned. But of course, you have to understand that Raila Odinga has been very, very quintessential to President Uhuru Kenyatta's second term, because Raila Odinga is the man who has stood with the president throughout implementing his legacy projects. And the ground where they were standing was such a project where the president himself alluded that Raila Odinga assisted him in actually brainstorming and coming up with the best idea of how they wanted the revamped Uhuru Gardens to look like. And in that regard, he advised the president to go to Zambia and look at how Zambia was. When the president invited Raila Odinga to speak, that was to give credit for the maybe good work Raila had done as maybe his brother and his advisor in such particular matter. But also another thing that came out, Raila, to me, acted as a messenger in what is an alleged takeover or grabbing of Uhuru Gardens, which was happening. And the grapevine has it that the Langata MP Nixon Korir was working with proxies together with people who are actually associated with a high-ranking government official who at the height of the victory in 2014 all the way to 2018, they had been trying to clandestinely grab this particular piece of land. And he brought out the fact that where Western Hotel sits today, Miriam, was part of Uhuru Garden, and exactly the spot where the hotel is built used actually to be a detaining, a concentration camp like what we saw with Auschwitz, Birkenau, and Sobibor. So that actually paints a gleam picture of our history, and it should be a place where we should erect a memorial facility where our nation can be able to remember that exactly at this particular point is where our heroes were tortured, butchered, and actually starved to death. But unfortunately, the land as we're speaking right now is where Western Hotel is built,
a hotel which is owned by the deputy president, a deputy president who is enjoying the returns and revenues from this illegally acquired land. And of course, that is denying Kenyans part of their history. And like Sharon said, a country which forgets its history, a country which conveniently discards parts of its history is more bound to repeat the mistakes of the past in the present and into the future. So therefore, I believe that one brought on the table a very, very vibrant conversation about our future and about state facilities that have been grabbed by these individuals. And that is why perhaps the deputy president does not allow conversation around our history. And all we can say as Kenyans is we cannot discard part of our history just because that part of history contains a very abrasive, ugly past of William Ruto's atrocities and haste of our national heritage and our land. So to me, I think it brought on board a very, very viable conversation. And on that regard, we ask Kenyans, in whose hands are we safe? In whose hands are we safe? If we are having people who are stealing whatever facilities that are meant to celebrate our national heroes, whatever facilities that hold our heritage and our history, in whose hands are we safe? So therefore, Miriam, I submit that these are Pandora's box that Raila Odinga came to open. And to me, I think it was very, very well planned, owing to the fact that we're going to be having the Western Hotel saga coming up at the height of next year's campaign. It's just a reminder, polite reminder to ignorant Kenyans who are more bound to vote and elect in thieves and thugs, that we are dealing with a very, very dangerous criminal, a criminal who has not only stolen from public coffers, but has also stolen from the dead heroes of this country, has stolen from the history of this country. And therefore, this is an individual who is unfit to hold any public office, leave alone even the presidency. So to me, that was a turning point for Kenyans. Kenyans should go back and smell the coffee and look into the future and see in whose hands will they be safe. I submit, Miriam.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And that is where we leave that matter right now. So we turn our attention to the front page of the Daily Nation, and the main headline on the Daily Nation this morning: Uhuru's big dilemma as half cabinet joins politics, with several cabinet secretaries being touted for political seats or having aligned themselves to the emerging formations ahead of the 2022 general election. The head of state could either make new appointments or ask the remaining ones to act in the vacant. Dorcas, and the story is on page 4 of the Daily Nation. And even as I turn on to the story, we saw that evident on Friday. I saw a number of cabinet secretaries during that meeting of Azimio la Umoja at Kasarani. I don't know, what did you make of that, Sharon? All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Miriam, for that question. And of course, I was also so keen to see the number, quite a number of, the cabinet secretaries who are actually, cabinet ministers who are actually present, during the Azimio la Umoja National Convention. And for me, I don't really think that the president is in such a dilemma. I believe for them to actually have gone there and in numbers, probably, from what I understand, they might have had his blessing. And, as we keep on saying, is that, at the end of the day, as long as, this cabinet, I was actually looking at the Constitution in Article, 23. It actually allows the cabinet, ministers it actually allows the cabinet ministers. And the thing is, as long as they are not contravening or, jeopardizing directly with the election, what they actually have said, you've had even Matiang'i come out before outrightly and say for them, they are supporting the handshake. And that is what the president is all about, because you have seen how much, the handshake has been of, benefit. You talk about the peace and tranquility that we continue to experience. I talk about the economy at large and the many things that, are the contributions that, have been as a result of the handshake. So for me, I don't really think it's a big dilemma for the president. And as long as, these people are not, contravening or at any point trying to jeopardize, 2022 election, as far as I'm concerned, for me, I don't really think it's a big deal. Thank you.
Okay, Sharon does not think it's a big deal.
I mean, I know they have a blessing, because to see them in a big number at, NDC, probably they were there to represent the president, would not have made, to be fair. So for me, that is what I believe.
Okay, thank you so much. Tarish, according to the story, President Kenyatta is staring at a dilemma because, there is a deadline for any civil servant who wants to participate or to be elected or run for an elective post. Next election, they have until, I think, February to resign from their positions. And of course, on Friday, as I mentioned, there were a couple of cabinet secretaries that were present in that political event in Kasarani. And so is it a real dilemma that President Uhuru Kenyatta is facing, or how do you think this will work out for the president?
Well, Miriam, to begin with, so much has been said about the active participation or involvement of cabinet secretaries or public servants really in politics. And the debate has been that people who want to participate in politics actively should, after all, really choose to resign and concentrate on politics. But Miriam, this country, you know where we've come from, and this has always been the case. When the government, for example, today is just that comfortable that maybe the CSS that we have, the cabinet ministers or secretaries, if you like, can freely engage in politics. And there's not so much you can do because, again, unless then one places a petition through Parliament or President Kenyatta decides, say, to remove them from their office, then they will still remain in the office and continue to serve until when maybe those who have ambitions to contest for various political seats by law are supposed to resign, of course, around February. Failure to which, of course, they cannot as well. If they continue to serve beyond February, then they cannot plunge into active politics in terms of elective politics, Miriam. But that said, I do not think that there is so much dilemma on the part of President Uhuru Kenyatta, assuming that most of these cabinet secretaries were really to quit their positions and go and contest for various elected people who serve in those ministries. For example, the principal secretaries, the CS, and between February and August would be a very short period, about 5 months or so. And if you are to consider also the issue of vetting cabinet appointees to these positions, President Kenyatta cannot go ahead and appoint new president to those positions. I think what the president will have to do, assuming assuming any of this cabinet secretary really decides to exit, resign, and go and contest, participate in elective politics, then the president will have to assign or reassign some of the cabinet secretaries more portfolios. Like assuming Fred Matiang'i was to continue being interior minister, and the minister for Minister for Devolution, Charles Keter, wants to go and contest governorship in, say, Kericho County, then the president can choose to have, say, CS Interior, of course, oversee the activities of the Ministry of Devolution. And where possible, also, we could have the principal secretaries or the principal secretaries being appointed in acting capacities in those respective dockets until when we get a new government in place by August, so that the cabinet can be reconstituted afresh. I don't think there's so much of a dilemma. The only thing I hope is that we're not going to have a big percentage of the serving cabinet secretaries are really plunging themselves into elective positions, because again, that in itself will be posing a very big challenge, like you've said, indeed, for President Kenyatta, because you cannot have a cabinet secretary, for example, serving in an acting capacity in, like, say, 3 or so ministries, assuming you are to have a half of the cabinet or 3/4 going for elective seats, then you're remaining with a very few members serving in the cabinet. So in itself, I really hope that there's not going to be a big number. But say it could be about 3, 4, or 5 at most, that the president can reorganize and have those who still continue to serve really help in those dockets in an acting capacities, or even have the principal secretaries take up the duties of the cabinet secretaries. I submit, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much. And also we know now the process of even having a CS, appointed. It's quite a process. They have to go through Parliament. So it's a bit tedious. It's not like we used to have it. So maybe that is a headache President Uhuru Kenyatta is not willing to be dealing with right now. So where does this leave President Uhuru Kenyatta?
But again, Miriam, there's something I also forget to mention, just if you give me a minute. Assuming that there's a necessity really to have a cabinet secretary, I can assure you that the president will be able to liaise with the leadership of the National Assembly so that Parliament is reconvened if they are on recess, to have the nominees to various cabinet positions, those that are very critical and those that must have really a substantive cabinet secretary in place. Then I think Parliament can be summoned from recess to come and oversee the vetting of these particular nominees so that they can be sworn in as fast as possible, but not the usual way, because sometimes it takes almost a month to do the same. So when we are remaining with about 4 months to election, it doesn't really make sense that we'll be going into vetting this cabinet secretaries to come into place. But where it will be absolutely necessary, I can assure you that Parliament can be summoned really to exercise their duty.
All right, very well. Thank you so much, Samuel Tawish. Now we know on Friday, like I mentioned, I think there were about 8 cabinet secretaries that were present in that Azimio la Umoja event in Kasarani. Daniel Wasonga. I think a lot of Kenyans perhaps might assume that this cabinet secretaries that were present in this event perhaps have already aligned themselves with the Azimio la Umoja. Is it safe to make that assumption? Daniel?
Yes, Miriam, thank you so much. On the question of the cabinet secretaries taking part in politics, I'll say that, our politics is, our government is based on politics. If you find a man who say that they can serve in government and not be politically aligned, it's like a man drowning in water and yet still claiming that water cannot, he has nothing, or they have nothing to do with water, So to me, I think you separating cabinet secretaries from politics is not something which is quite possible, because remember, these are appointees of political parties, or political affiliations. You need to have maybe been a pro-Jubilee, or maybe a friend of someone in Jubilee for you to be a cabinet secretary in the Jubilee government, or maybe you are appointed by the whims of the leader of the Jubilee government, who believes, if I get this kind of guy to be in charge of the Ministry of Interior, of the Ministry of Finance, then we're going to have a very splendid job being done. So these are political appointees per se, owing to the fact that the person who appointed these particular individuals was given mandate to be in that office by the virtue of a political exercise, which is voting by the ballot. So these individuals have their bosses who have been elected into this political office by the virtue of the politics of the day. So therefore, these cabinet secretaries have their own political affiliations, and therefore they should be given the right to exercise their rights as per the Constitution of having the political right to associate with any other political movement. So to me, it doesn't mean that these people are working for the government, or maybe they are going to influence an election in a particular way. They're just expressing and exercising their political rights. The same way the owner of the Royal Media Services Company, SK Macharia, said the other day, I'm here in Kasarani because of exercising my political rights. I'm not here to represent any of my companies. And that is it, Miriam. In this world, people hold divergent opinions based on politics, religion, and even on other social matters. So to me, I think they shouldn't be crucified on the altar that they're taking political sides. Furthermore, in 2013, we had these CSS attending some of these political rallies, and there was no much hate about it. And perhaps at that time, it's only ODM which complained. And that time, the deputy president felt it was okay. And today, ODM feels it is okay. The deputy president feels like it is not okay. And that is why Barack Obama said when he came to Kenya the last time that democracy, in a thriving democracy, you cannot actually satisfy everyone. Because if you today come into this country, you find someone crying about a particular side, maybe oppressing them. Tomorrow you come only to find that the side was crying about being oppressed is a happy side, and the other side is actually crying of being oppressed. So that is actually part of democracy. So let these cabinet secretaries do whatever their duty mandates. Let them also as much engage in personal rights. Because at the end of the day, Miriam, there is no law which will tell these cabinet secretaries not to cast their ballot on 9th of August 2022. They'll ultimately vote for their candidate. And that is why even for President Uhuru Kenyatta, he also has his candidate, and he's going to vote for that candidate. So people should actually do away with this kind of pettiness and hearsay that these cabinet secretaries, maybe they're working for somebody. The election will be on the 8th of August 2022, and I believe if Chebukati can give us a free and fair election, then whoever is actually expected to win will have his day home. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. And speaking of Chebukati, on page 5 of the Daily Nation, at least 10 political parties risk being barred from participating in next year's elections after they failed to comply with the requirements of the law on nomination rules. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati, said out of the 82 parties that resubmitted the revised nomination rules to the Commission for review, 72 are eligible for compliance certificates. From this review, 72 political parties are found to be compliant and will in the course of this week be issued with compliance certificates as guided by the provisions of Section 27 of the Elections Act, Mr. Chebukati said in a statement yesterday following a meeting with the parties at Manzoni Lodge. IEBC, he noted, will also contact the 10 parties that did not comply to advise them on the way forward. He did not, however, name the non-compliant outfits. Initially, IEBC had rejected all the nomination rules filed by the parties, citing failure to meet statutory requirements. Among the shortcomings were lack of clear guidelines on how to identify aspirants for nominations and formulation of the party list. Some parties have no signatories for nomination certificates, while others lacked codes of conduct to address electoral malpractices. Others had not clear provisions on waiver for nomination fee for the special interest groups, while others had not clear internal party dispute resolution mechanisms to resolve protests arising from the primaries. And of course, as I was watching that story yesterday on one of the television stations in the country, I heard Chebukati say that these parties, the 10 parties that have not met, I know these requirements were given another 10 days to ensure that they do so. And so I don't know what you make of this, Sharon Gitonga. And also, I think a couple of days ago, IEBC gave a deadline of anybody who wishes to participate in Harambes or fundraising and you'll be running for a political seat next year. 9th of December was the deadline. So since then, I've been trying to look and see, is there somebody who is flaunting, who is, going against this rule, and I've not seen one yet. So maybe, I don't know, why do you think Chebukati found it necessary to add another 10 days to these political parties, and yet the deadline was very clear?
Miriam, I think I was also trying to do some, just exactly like you've talked about, and I don't know, maybe I judged wrongly or it was correct, but I saw the deputy president in Turkana Festival, so I don't know if that was a campaign indirectly.
Did he give some money?
I mean, the thing was IEBC was not becoming true to itself because I remember this is a culture that people have adopted, yeah? So he might not go there in person, but how do you know, I mean, if he decides to send someone to represent him? Because I believe when you're invited for such a festival, there's, of course, people expect something. So I don't want to try and judge wrongly, but if there was maybe an investigative journalist there, would be able to tell us if, but I believe from where I sit, that is what I tend to believe. Maybe if the IEBC has said, there's no political party or even any political aspirant that is meant to hold fundraisers, how are they able to account for people that go at the grassroots and send someone to represent? Because remember, these people, as they invite them, at the end of the day, people expect something, and that is the culture that we have. And I think IEBC has failed, deliberately, or to actually educate the people as to why, the political parties are not supposed to, engage in fundraisers, because people at the end of the day expect something, and that is something that probably IEBC failed to do at that. Now, coming to your question about, the political parties, I was also keen. I wish they would have, brought out the names so that we can find out, because if I remember, on the first presser, they had actually said anyone that fails to meet up the qualification would end end up being disqualified. So right now, hearing them coming out and saying they are going to give them another grace period of 10 days, begs the question to understand how and, which are these parties? Because when I look at, for example, like UDA, I don't know if they're even, legally registered. So there's also that aspect of, accountability and transparency. And that is what, IEBC has, deliberately failed to do. And that is why they had, they were, very quick to even walk out of the multi-sectoral agency, because I believe these kind of aspects of accountability and transparency, why are they not coming out to, issue these 10 names for the public to see whether what we have been, speculating, probably they could be reading from specific scripts of, certain parties. So I believe that is another aspect of, failure from IEBC before they give them, because I remember they, like I've said, they had said, outright that any party that fails to meet the threshold, they are gonna be disqualified. So right now, hearing them talking about giving them another 10 days, I mean, it raises some eyebrows. And like Dr. Matsanga keeps on saying every day, a bad election is equivalent to war. And I hope IEBC is going to heed into, or even people are going to heed into, bring in so much more petitions so that we can have them, have IEBC, and specifically Wafula, Chebukati from the helm of the leadership of, IEBC. We cannot have his bungled elections before. So from where I sit, let's wait and see if he's going to list out the names so that, for the public, so that we can judge from that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And of course, we are running against time. We shall be starting our next show, I think, in the next 3 or 4 minutes. I want us to wrap up this very quickly. Sambo Tawish, Sharon Kitunga there has brought up the issue of why is Chebukati not coming outright and telling us this and this party has failed to meet the criteria, so this is why we're adding them more time. Are they deliberate in this move?
Well, Miriam, I think first and foremost, what is very important is that all these political parties must really comply with the requirements of the law. And on the issue of nominations, just like the IEBC has set out, and that must be respected by all political parties. Unfortunately, in this country, we do not have political parties with a sound ideology or even principles. They are not founded on any principles. It's more of just briefcase parties that people morph up, especially as we head into general election. Look into how many political parties we have in the country today. In fact, even as we speak now, there's a launch of the Democratic Alliance or something of the sort at the Bomas of Kenya. There are so many, almost everybody and every part of this country really wants to come up with their own political party or a vehicle to contest for presidency. But be that as it may, I think given that they have now asked these political parties to comply within a record 10 days, failure to which I'm very sure that IEBC will be going ahead and publishing the names of those political outfits that have not really met the requirements of the law. So for now, I think it's very, very important that they are given that benefit of doubt, they are given that enough window period to be able to comply. Failure to which I'm sure IEBC will come and now officially make it public for people to be able to understand which of the political parties hasn't quite met the requirements of the law. Because Miriam, it is very challenging if you have a party that has not met all the requirements of the law. Because again, when you get into nominations, when you get into elections through these political parties, then maybe there's a dispute. It becomes a problem for you to solve this dispute if the same is not anchored in as far as that political party is concerned. All these things must be captured so that it is very clear, assuming there's a dispute that arises out of a nomination, how is it going to be resolved before it even gets to the dispute?
Alfred, I have to cut you short there. Sorry. Thank you so much, because we have to bring the show to an end as we give way to our next show.
I'm here. Before you bring it to an end, there's a very interesting point that I've been listening to you in the background. So first of all, thank you very much. Well done on your congratulations for your graduation on Friday. We kept the fort, and we thank you very much, Tawish, for you for the Uhuru Park. And Sharon, we also kept the fort and Wesonga while you people were busy outside on assignment. There is a point that Tawish has just brought. Why do we waste time that IEBC comes to do what? To tell us again it shows the shambolic preparations, the shambolic way that this election is being conducted. This election is being, prepared. This election, it gives you the results. Threats are being made. Why do you come to tell us about them? Disqualify them. It is just write to them a letter. It is over. The chairman of the Electoral Commission, if he was a good chairman like other chairmen in South Africa, who are chairman of Electoral Commissions, Tawish, what do? Wanakutupa nje. You can go to the Supreme Court, but as you go to the Supreme Court, you not have even time. The election is going on. You can get your verdict later. But tupa inje, if you have not, they were given time. They didn't fulfill. Man extended the time. Why do you keep it? Why do you keep them? Why should Chebukati come back to report to who? He shouldn't even report. Use the law. Do we need to look? People, Chebukati has the law that empowers him to disqualify a candidate who has been found flouting the regulations of an election. Why doesn't he do that? He doesn't do that because the Electoral Commission chairman is compromised. And for me, that is all I wanted to add on. Miriam, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So we'll bring the show to an end, but don't go too far. We will be back with a special coverage where Dr. Matanga shall be leading us on the next show. And our topic will be the bumpy roadmap to the 2022 Kenya's elections. And I guess IEBC will be part of the conversation. Thank you so much for watching. Don't go too far. We shall be right back.